Welcome everyone, the Monthly Dev. I think this is the 19th event, and today we'll talk about developers in team. I'm a huge fan of this topic. I have here two great friends already, Yotam from Tabnine and Pratim from Nhost. So this will be a very
Hello.
short technique of the whole event, and then we will start. So just say hi, just sound check, Yotam and Pratim.
Hello,
So lots of things.
everyone. I'm so excited to be here.
Nice,
Hello,
nice.
everyone. It's really good to be here.
Perfect. So I really can't wait. So what will we talk about today? Let's see the titles, of the talks. So we have Yotam, Pratim, and Danny Thompson, hopefully. And the first, okay, so this should be the sequence of the presentation. So the first one is Yotam. I like this profile picture, by the way. You should change it. Working in a dev team made easier. And then we'll have Pratim. Developers are the new decisions makers and trendsetters. I love the title, but I think it's a bit long. So this gave us some layout problems, but we fixed them. No problem.
I love how you're giving us grades already for our work. I just love it, Francesco. You're so good at it.
Nice. And then Danny Thompson, hopefully, I can't promise because he got meetings from all the parts of the world, working on a team the right way. So stick with us. I'll try to bring him here, even if I have to go personally at his house. Good morning. Hello. Okay. So, I have to say bye to both of you, Yotam and Pratim, just for 2 minutes. Yotam, I'll call you back in 2 minutes. So, yeah, see you later. Bye. And to you, Pratim. Okay. Nice. So now it's just me. Say hello. Hi, everyone. So before we start, let me just share something super fast, of course, if I can make it. Because I wanted to share something about Daily Dev. This event is organized by the Daily Dev team. Of course, I'm just the face of the event, but there's a lot of work behind that. And I just want to tell you just a couple of things super fast. We have made 2 great feature releases this month. The first one, the last month, it has been the companion. I really suggest you to check what the companion is. It's a game changer to make comments on articles. I'm not joking. So check this video out. I'll leave a link soon in the chat. And the second one, I think I released this just a couple of days ago. No, 2 weeks ago already. Time flies. It's Community Picks that allows you to share articles on the Daily Dev feed. And this is also another amazing feature, a game changer. So this is just the things that I wanted to tell you before we start. Let me share the link of the changelog in the comments. Hi, everyone. I see a lot of good people. I see also Ido, the super Ido. Nice, perfect. So I don't want to steal too much time for the audience. Okay, Yotam, this is not our first live stream together because we have done already a live stream. It has been kind of successful on my YouTube channel. Sorry for the shameless plug. On my YouTube channel, it also went pretty well. And I think you are muted, Yotam. You are muted.
Oh yeah,
okay.
I was just talking about how wonderful I am. Sorry. Yeah,
okay,
of course,
so
our mutual video is a success. The 2 faces on the same screen, man.
Nice. And okay, so what I know about Yotam, because I tried to dig just a bit, I know that he's a developer advocate at Tabnine. We already made some collaborations. I checked his LinkedIn profile. He also went on TV. So I want to know more. I want to make a separate episode on this. So Yotam, please tell us something about you, super fast, a small introduction. Tell me when we can share your screen, and then I'll let you make your presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I will just say that I'm so happy to be here. It's been a while since we did something together, and I jumped on the opportunity once you gave it to me. Usually, when I go on any broadcast, I talk about Tabnine as a product that is an AI assistant that helps developers of all levels and so forth. But today, actually, we're going to do something that is a little bit different because I'm going to talk more about how it is to be a dev in a dev team and what can be done both as a member of a team or as a team lead to make teamwork a dream work, to make teamwork just better, nicer, and more proficient. So I've made a little slideshow with my own tips and hints on how I think every team of devs in the world should work, and I based everything on the way that we work here in Tabnine. I really hope it will be it will have some value to our viewers today.
Nice, Yotam. So can I share your screen?
Yes, please.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll allow you just for 20 more seconds. So good luck, Yotam. This presentation will last for about 20 minutes. You can drop your questions in the chat. I'll save them, hopefully. And at the end of this presentation, we'll have also 10 minutes to discuss. So just drop the questions there. And yes, Yotam, good luck.
I will try.
This time I'll leave you alone and be right back. And I'll be right back very soon.
Okay.
Bye. Good luck, man. Bye.
Thank you very much. So before I even start, I just want to apologize for all of you for seeing the top bar of my Google Chrome. I'm using a new computer after my last one just died in a horrible way, and I still haven't got the time to make all the adjustments. So with my deepest apologies, let's start by talking about Mark. So this is the story of Mark, and let's talk about a guy named Mark. This is Mark. Well, this isn't really Mark. For obvious reasons, I can't use Mark's real picture in this talk, so we'll just use this made-up character created by AI and pretend it's Mark. And his name isn't really Mark either, okay? It's not Mark. But Mark is a senior developer who's working in the same team with a good friend of mine. A few weeks ago, my friend tells me there are suddenly problems working with Mark. He argues a lot about anything and everything and with everyone. He's roasting juniors in code reviews for no reasons. He objects almost everything that's being brought to his table. And to make everything even worse, he's not even doing his job so well anymore. His open tasks are staying open, bugs under his responsibility remain unfixed, and everyone's suffering from it. So I asked my friend, wait, are we talking about the same Mark here? I thought you loved the guy. He was the one who briefed you in when you first got in the job. Well, why won't you just grab him for a nice and friendly chit-chat and try to see what's wrong? And he did. And it turns out that Mark started feeling left out. But why? We'll get to Mark later. We'll go back to him later, okay? But before we dive into the reasons that made Mark feeling being left out, I just want to introduce myself, even though I did it just a few minutes ago with Francesco. My name is Yotam. I'm a developer advocate at Tabnine. And in this talk, I'll share some of my best tips for those who work in dev team, with hopes it will help you avoid becoming the next Mark. Let's start by listing down some of the road bumps every dev team encounters. First and foremost, we can put it under the umbrella of gaps. I'm referring to professional gaps between the members of the same team. Those gaps will always be there, and they come in different variations. Firstly, let's remember that we all individuals, and each one of us brings their own unique experience to the team. Some of us are seasoned developers with years of experience behind us. Some have been around working in dev teams for a year or two, and some of us are just now started taking their first steps as professional programmers. We're not the same people. And even in the unlikely scenario when everyone in the team have the exact same level of experience, we'll always have some teammates who are more familiar with the projects the team is working on together than the others, or someone who knows better than everyone else how to play with that one particular dependency that holds the whole functionality of a certain app that you've all built together, and so forth. And we all have our own coding styles, and that's cool. Developers want to be recognized by their own unique signature in the code they write. But sometimes when working together on the same projects, maintaining agreed upon patterns and other coding conventions can be crucial. And for many reasons, company founders would usually want to show their investors a clean code written in well-kept and aligned pattern. Also, bugs can be more easily fixed when every component in the project is written in the same way. And most importantly, in my opinion, consistency in code makes it so much easier for the onboarding process of new members joining the team. And of course, we all have different working habits. Some prefer working alone in a dark, quiet room with their hoodie on. Some can't stand having others reviewing their code before it's merged and deployed. And some are used to taking their time to test each and every unit twice before pushing their branches into a PR. So what can be done to bridge those gaps of experience, style, and work habits between the members of a team? And here's what I'm suggesting. Document everything, share your experience, and take advantage of AI. For starters, if you're not doing it already, have all your projects and tech stacks documented and maintain a well-organized internal documentation for that. But what should you document exactly? Well, pretty much everything. Are you working on a new project? Or have you just integrated something new into an existing project? Or maybe you're working to refactor some old feature. Great. Just remember to finish up your work with one more small task of documenting what you just did. You'll be surprised of how satisfying it will become after a while. A rich internal documentation is essential for the onboarding funnel of new members also, who can rely on it to get an overview of what the team is working on and have better understanding on how each project is structured, what are the team's best practices are, and so forth, without having to ask someone all the time. You know how they are when they just begin. I'm sorry, just one more thing about it. And here's a pro tip. One member of the team should be the owner by definition of this super important asset. This doesn't mean that they need to write the internal documentation by themselves. Of course not. Their job is to make sure that the docs are updated on time and making sure that each doc is located in a relevant position and contains enough tags or keywords to make it easily accessible at any time. I can tell you that we are using Atlassian's Confluence, and it's a great tool that lets you keep all the documentation aligned in lists. When something is not updated anymore, it pops the notification. It's great. But as much as ideally we'd want to have absolutely everything documented in text marbled with walkthrough images, some things are just easier to explain in person. Maybe they're just too complicated, or maybe they're not significant enough to be written down into your team's internal docs, you know. My best tip here is to always have my best tip here is to always have this thing explained in your own words to at least one of your teammates through a recorded Zoom session, even if you're sitting in the same room together. And then label this recording as a substitute for a written documentation page, just a video. For sure, this video will become handy at some point. Another great teamwork practice to help everyone stay in the loop is to hold a short weekly tutorial presented each week by a different teammate. This session can last anywhere between 2 minutes to 2 hours and should cover just one topic about anything, really. It can be a simple oral description of a certain component that teammate had just finished working on, or a long, detailed presentation covering the specs of a new technology that the team lead had just acquired for the team to use, or anything between, just to keep everyone in the loop of what we have, of the assets that we have and how to use them. And just always remember to have everything recorded. For some people, it's easier to follow and understand the content of a recorded video session in their own pace. And in terms of work habits, it's always a good practice to let each team member work in their own preferred conditions. If they prefer working in a dark room while blasting their speakers in full volume EDM beats, well, as long as they aren't interrupting their teammates, then it's okay. But if they do, though, well, in that case, some ground rules should probably be laid down and followed. But this isn't organizational psychology 101. So instead, let me just say something about delivery protocols. They are essential. We all come from different places. We have different perspectives on how code should be delivered to production. In case your team doesn't have a delivery protocol that everyone follows, well, you should probably consider creating one yesterday. This doesn't have to be too complicated, really, especially when you can have some of the parts of the process partially or completely automated. At Tabnine, we use Jira tickets to assign and manage tasks. When the task is done, the assigned member creates a pull request, which immediately invokes a bunch of GitHub actions for tests and CI/CDs processes. And when all those checks are passed successfully, the teammate simply sends a link with the PR to a designated Slack channel created, and we named it PR Reviews. That pings a notification for the rest of the team. Then whoever is available just marks this message with some funny emoji, letting everyone else knows that he's going to review this PR, and takes a few minutes to review it, say, is it good, it's bad, do you need to fix anything, or come on, let's merge it, and then it's merged to the main branch. And in regards of maintaining agreed upon patterns of code when every member of the team has their own personal coding style, well, Tabnine got this one sorted out for you. And for those who aren't familiar with Tabnine yet, it's an AI assistant for software developers. Tabnine provides smart and ultra-fast code completions that are contextually related to the code you're writing. And when working with Tabnine for teams, you have the ability to integrate it into your team's actual repositories, to your GitHub, to your GitLab, to your Bitbucket. And then Tabnine's AI engine suggests completions to your code that are based on the specific project you're currently working on, and will help every teammate keep their code style aligned with the rest of their teammates. So if you haven't tried it before, give it a go. And another aspect that holds some of those road bumps that I've mentioned before can be found in the actual day-to-day teamwork. Now, though it may sound pretty straightforward, creating and maintaining a friendly work environment where everybody's having a sense of belonging isn't always an easy task. And on the other hand, as much as being nice and friendly with the rest of your teammates is vital for good teamwork, keeping clear professional boundaries is just as important. And sometimes balancing the two can be really hard. And last but not least, we often find ourselves in a sticky situation where our work is holding back one of our teammates' work or vice versa. And sometimes one can code something for hours just to realize that the whole time their teammate was working simultaneously on the exact same task. And that's a bummer. So here are some of the things we do at Tabnine to make our teamwork flow nice and breezy. Well, gradually it boils down to these three ground rules. Keep up and remain updated on what your teammates are currently working on. Be kind to them and do everything in your power to have fun. I will now elaborate. So, daily meetings. I guess some of you will disagree with me on this one, but in my opinion, keeping a daily meeting as a must is, in fact, just as important for each member of the team as it is for the team lead. Daily meetings aren't meant just for the sheer duty of reporting your work up the chain. In reality, where some of us are drowning in endless open tasks, it can be very easy to drift apart, socially and professionally from our teammates. And these meetings, when managed correctly, let you know what your teammates currently working on. It gives you the opportunity to ask for assistance or to offer your help to others, or just to hear a funny story about someone's last weekend, which is sometimes very important, you know? And a good daily meeting starts with, in the way we do it, a good daily meeting starts with 3 to 4 minutes of a friendly chat, and then each member gets 2 to 3 minutes to speak without being interrupted, in which they should raise issues if there are any, ask for help, and let the team know what they'll be working on today or have been working on today, depending on where they are in the globe. Maybe it's the end of the day for them. And at my team, it took us a while to perfect a formula of high-level communication. And it's set on a few basic principles. If it's work-related, don't use any personal channels such as WhatsApp or Telegram. Those are for fun and for social togetherness, not for anything professional. We have a designated Slack workspace divided into channels of specific subjects. This way, conversations stay on topic and make it easier for all participants to follow. You can also use Slack bots to let you know of upcoming birthdays, ping dom alerts, successful releases to production, and whatnot. You can do anything with Slack bots. And emails, by the way, were made to be internally ignored. So try to avoid using those for communication with your teammates. And try to help creating an inclusive environment with supportive attitude towards anyone in your team. Is one of your teammates' work feels kind of slow lately? Did they act grumpy all day? Use your own judgment to decide if you should ask them in private. Don't do it in front of other people if something is wrong. And if you do, be friendly about it and don't dig in, try asking for details. Maybe they wouldn't want to share what they're going through, but would feel relieved if you'll offer to take over some of their work so they can sort out whatever they need to sort out. These kind of small gestures will become around your way one day. But maybe you just have a problem with that smell of that very certain pizza your teammate brings into the office every Tuesday for their lunch break. And trust me, I know how it feels. And I can tell you that keeping that thought to yourself will eventually become toxic for yourself mostly. This is just one small example, and I'm sure you can think of a dozen others. But my advice here, and that's a free tip for life, by the way, not just for a better teamwork, is to practice the ability to step forward and without any accusation in your voice, tell the person what they're doing that bothers you. Don't expect it to be easy right from the start, but if your approach is done in a friendly way with a big smile, look in the eyes, they will respect you for it. Just remember to take it easy, okay? And that brings us back to Mark. Remember Mark? Well, here's what happened. Mark is a big fan of rock music from the 90s. And for a long time, he used to blast these tracks through his Mac speakers every day. His team was still very small back then, just Mark, my friend, and 2 more teammates. And they all enjoyed Mark's music. And then, a few months ago, a massive project was assigned to their team. And 3 junior developers who were just recently recruited to the company joined the team to help them with that big project. And just like Mark, one of those 3 devs was very much into music. So one day, when Mark walked late into the office, the rest of his team was already there. And then he heard very loud music, but it was high beat dance track, very different from his beloved 90s rock ballads. Mark kind of hated it, but didn't want to say anything about it because he didn't want to kill the nice atmosphere, didn't want to kill the vibe. And especially when he is known to be that guy who puts on loud music every day. But from that moment onwards, Mark became more and more miserable by the day. As much as he tried to enjoy those EDM beats like the rest of his teammates did, he couldn't stand listening to it all day long. And slowly but surely, Mark started drifting apart. It was around that time when my friend told me about this Mark situation that he couldn't understand. And when he took my advice and carefully asked him, "What's wrong?" Mark felt relieved and told him that how hard it is for him to work with that kind of music in the background all day long. And also how embarrassed he is to say anything about it. So my friend came up with a very creative idea. The next day, during the team daily meeting, my friend sent links and invited everyone in person to join as contributors to a new Spotify playlist he created right after the talk he had with Mark. Without Mark knowing, he already threw in some of his favorite songs and even integrated a Spotify Slack bot to make it easier on everyone to add their own like tracks to this new themed team playlist. The team theme playlist became a hit, and everyone enjoyed throwing in their songs tracks to it every day, and this is what they listen to from now on, everyone's music. Well, needless to say, Mark felt grateful for this friendly gesture made by his teammates and immediately started feeling like he is part of his team again. Happy end. We did the same thing here at Tabnine, and I really recommend this hack to everyone. You won't believe the wonders music can do to teamwork. Well, that's it for now. Thank you for listening to this talk, and I really hope that it helped you learn something new.
Thank you so much, Yotam. And
Thank you.
I think this was very emotional, and I really loved this.
It came straight from my heart, man.
I can feel it. I can feel it, and I think it will be very hard to fake something like that. So I trust you, and yeah, I think it's very important to talk when we are in teams. So it's very important to discuss about the problems and solve them before they become too big. Basically,
It is, you know.
it's like a relationship. Yeah,
it's not a relationship, but I think I could have just narrowed this presentation down to like a one word: just communicate. Just learn how to communicate, and everything will be okay. But either way, I had to blurb around it, so I did.
Nice. By the way, I like both the dance music and the metal music. So for me, it will be good, both of them. You have Graham, enjoy the keep up with the rest, be kind part, especially a lot of things. We have a question. I don't know. I don't think it's related to this topic, but we'll drop it anyway. And so about it's more about automation. So what is made manually more than 3 times should be automated. I don't know. It's not related to the topic, but let's drive it again. Anyway.
Okay. I guess there can be several answers for this, but I don't feel like I have the authority to really give like a profound answer on that. So if that's okay.
Yeah, I think that the answer here is it depends, of course, on the. There are things that are very, very hard to automate. And now let's drop some compliments. Yotam's presentation is amazing. We saw it.
Thank you.
And yes, let's see if I find something. If you want to drop a question, this is the moment. And yes, but I think yes, soft skills. I don't like the term. I prefer like human skills. I don't know. Soft seems like something like less important. I don't know. Yeah, we have a questions by Graham. I think it should be the only one. Any tool services that work well for bonding in fully remote teams?
I can I can answer not from the position of someone who's working in a fully remote team, but as someone who just got back from a period of working from abroad. I just spent a few months in Southeast Asia, and I kept working full time. I can say that one thing that really helped me to stay in touch is, well, I know it's kind of obvious, but Zoom calls for everything. I sometimes kept my teammates on Zoom calls, even if we didn't have a topic to discuss at the moment. When I knew they were in office, I just had them have their one of their computers open on Zoom in the corner of the room. Then when I needed something, I didn't have to send a message, wait for them to come back. I know they're in the office. I'm working at the same time. When I see one of them walk in, I see it on the screen. I just kept the Zoom open on one of my screens. When someone jumped in, I was like, "Hey, wait! I need something here. Come here." It made it so much easier, feeling like I'm not alone, you know. And in terms of other tools, we all know them. I mentioned some of them in my talk. Slack bots for everything, and Slack in general, Jira tickets, and Atlassian, but that's not really related to remote work. But that's my tip for that, I guess.
Nice, thank you. I think we have just one more. By the way, Monara says, thank you so much for the answer. It was a really great presentation. Keep up with the good work. Nice. So this one by Sumit, how would you approach a situation where there is a team worker that suddenly starts acting cold out of nowhere, out of the blue?
Well, Again, it depends. Again, I know that the whole presentation sounded like some psychology course, but I'm not a psychologist. I'm just a regular dev person like everyone else here. I can say that if someone's just starting to act cold, well, if it's not affecting our work in any way, then I guess it's none of my business. If I feel like the person is suffering and my heart goes out to them, then maybe I will try to use one of the things that I did say in the conversation in my presentation before, that I will try to grab a situation where we're both alone, so they won't be embarrassed of me approaching them, and just kindly ask, "Is everything okay?" If they want to answer, they will answer. If they don't, they don't. It's not up to us. We need to make the separation between personal lives and work environments. It's very important.
Absolutely. And I think if this happens, it's a clear sign that something happened in their life, probably something bad, and probably they don't want to talk about this at work. I think it depends also on their level of connection you create with them at work. Someone would like to have a personal connection even at work. Some they prefer to be more professional. So it depends. But for sure, something happened. If this happens, something out of the blue. For sure, something happened. Yeah. So Nimrod does a little shout out to Gather Town.
Gather Town instead of keeping a Zoom window open all day long.
Yeah, basically you have this kind of pixel characters moving along, and yes.
Oh, I will give it a try.
Yes.
Thanks,
let's go with this one. This will be the last one. Then we have Pratim. I've heard upskilling in a fully remote environment is difficult. What would you suggest to me if I start feeling that I'm lagging behind due to remote work but don't want to leave remote?
Well, I guess there are several things that can be done, but I don't know if your question is more related to being left behind in terms that you don't follow any more of what the rest of your team is doing, or that you feel burnt out. If you're feeling that you are behind schedule, or just not understanding what your team is working on anymore, then there's no other way but coming forward and saying exactly how you feel. If you are important and valued in your team, someone will reach over to you and make sure that they grab you, that they give you a hand. Personal connections are very important. I know it's a lot harder to maintain when working remotely, but keeping maybe even when working remotely, keeping like more personal touch with your teammates is important.
Nice. Thank you, Yotam. So now I have to say bye to you. If you can stay, we can stay 10 more minutes at the end, maybe, because we are planning some stuff before the end. So
I'm
10
not
more
going
minutes
anywhere.
If you can. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So thank you. Bye. See you later, Yotam. And now let me invite Pratim. Pratim, how are you? Pratim is a developer advocate and Nhost. I try to dig a bit in her past. I see that you do volunteer. You have done something in infotech somewhere. Your computer science, I think, is it?
Yeah.
So yes, a small introduction. Then you can share your presentation, and then I can let you talk. So yeah, how are you?
I am good, and thank you. First of all, thank you so much for inviting. It's always fun collaborating with you and daily.dev. So really happy to be here. And yeah, I think you've said a lot about me also in terms. I work as developer advocate at Nhost in daytime, and half of the nighttime I make sure I create content in terms of Web3. I'm a Web3 enthusiast, learning from you most probably also. I keep reading from your threads a lot. So yeah, life's good, and trying to understand more about developer experience and how we can make the life of developers easier. And I think that's around what my presentation and my topic is for today.
Nice. Can we share the screen now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Nice. Okay. So this is her profile picture on Twitter. Of course, follow her everywhere. She's very passionate when he does basically everything. So yes, Pratim, I'll let you start because we have a strict times now, so I don't want to interrupt. You have 25 minutes, and then at the end we will take the questions of Pratim. Good luck.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, hello everyone. I'd like to say hello, hola, bonjour, ciao. I hope I've said it right, but hello to everyone. And yeah, thank you for inviting me today, as I said, Francesco. And so before I get started with today's topic, which is developers are the new decision makers, and why understanding developers better is important, not just for the developer community, but also for product owners, for people who are building products for developers. I just like to give a quick introduction about what I do, where I work. So yeah, I would really appreciate you folks to go and check out Nhost. We are an open source Firebase alternative, and we use GraphQL. Now, why do I say that we are a Firebase alternative? Because for anyone to understand a backend as a service, or you making sure that a SaaS product is used in terms of backend, Firebase is something that normally people have used. But I think it's high time we shift towards open source products, and that's where we come in. We at Nhost, we are trying to give you Postgres database. We have Hasura, we have storage, serverless functions, so everything open source, and we are completely open source. So make sure you folks check it out, and if check us out on GitHub and Twitter. Yeah, that's about it. And let's get started with our actual topic. So, if you all know, till the last decade, people who wrote code were never on the front end of the curtain. We were the ones who used to write the play, the dialogues, and the plot, but we were never the ones who enacted in the movie. We used to always have the back seat. Apologies if there's any background noise. I think there's an ambulance nearby my house, so that's it. But yeah, coming back to the conversation, we have always been on the back end. Like, you write the code, you write the logic, but you are not the one who is involved in the decision making process. So why did I decide to go ahead with this topic? First and foremost, because I am a developer, you are a developer, and I think 90% of the 90% of the people who are currently listening to this blog are also developers. So it's very important today for us to understand how things have changed from the last decade, and how today we as developers have a lot of decision making power, and how we can use it from both the sides, how product users can use it, and also as how you consumers who are developers can use it. Yeah, let's look at some statistics here, but first, yeah. Yep. So, according to the 20th edition of the State of the National Developer Report, there were around 26 million, approximately 27 million active software developers in the world by the end of 2021. And if we are talking in terms of GitHub has currently reported that it has 83 million users. So imagine, it's like a very big chunk of the world who are completely into the profession of software development. And so basically we are a big chunk of the world. And if that's the case, we need to make sure that we are at a position where we can take some decisions, and we are not just people who basically just code or come up with logics. Given that, so initially I think developers were called as the IT staff, but today if you see, there is a complete field, there is a complete area who looks after how the developer, who looks after the psychology that developers come up with, or the community that developers build. Because this whole market of SaaS products is the basically SaaS product is products whose consumers are developers, right? So they are the ones who need developer community. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that there is a huge community that we are a part of, and everyone wants to tap into this community. But let's see how these things are different on different sides. First of all, let's talk about why it is important to basically be a part of a developer community. Well, being a part of a good developer community will make sure that your product has good developers, it gets good feedback, and it also has it trusts better. It basically builds proper trust between you and the brand. And coming back to the main topic, understanding the developer mindset, or the psychology of developers is very very crucial for reaching a big audience if you're building any developer tool. because in the end, it's about the productivity of developers that the developer tool is trying to solve. And if your product wants to nail developer productivity, it needs to understand developer psychology. Again, let's move on to the side of the product side. So the developer psychology has two perspectives. One is the one from the product builder side, and one is the user side, that is the people who use the product. For example, the users, let's take the users, that is the devs. And we'll understand how understanding developers and making better decisions will help any product person make better decisions about their product development. But before we go ahead, let's understand a term, product market fit, which is very important for any SaaS product, which closely works with developers. So now, what exactly is product market fit? Product market fit majorly means that there is someone majorly means that you are offering something that a group of people already need, and also those group of people are there to make sure that there is enough demand for your business, and to make sure that there is enough growth for your business. As long as you fit the product market fit, it's basically it's a smooth road ahead, so that you know that this is the product which people need. And yeah, that's about having a product market fit. And now, why would you need external? So now that we're talking about product market fit, let's talk about how developers affect the complete developer market fit. You will be thinking about, why would you need any external help on understanding a developer, and whereas a team that is building a product is obviously full of developers, right? So then why do they need help to understand developer psychology from externally? Well, the reason behind it is because when you're in a team, there is an echo that is forming. If your team consists of 10 developers, it's very obvious that the 10 people that you are going to think that the product that you've built is the perfect product, or it already answers all the questions that it has to answer. But that's not the case. There are different kind of developers. There are kinds of developers that come with different experience levels, and everyone's going to have a different set of mentalities when they approach your product. Now, if they do not find that your product is helpful, if they do not think that your product is answering to their questions, they are going to lose interest in your product, and then they're probably going to move on to some other product. That's the most important reason why you need to understand developer psychology from an external perspective. You need to bring in some external factors, some external people who would explain it to you better, rather than you who has actually built the product, or rather than your team who has built the product. Because as I said, again, you would come in with the same thought process that, yeah, I know what I'm trying to solve, I know what I'm trying to achieve. So this is something that the developer basically needs. But yeah, so let's talk about what are the different kinds of mentalities that developers majorly come up with. And this was like a really interesting research paper that I read upon, and that according to that research paper, and even something that I have noticed, there are majorly two different type of mentalities that developers come up with. First is the problem finders, and second is the decision makers. Now let's understand what both these mentalities mean. Problem finders are the ones who actually go through your product and understand, okay, they basically tick a checklist while they're understanding a product, and they wait at the moment they find that something is wrong with the product. For example, you come up with a tool which helps you make your front end better. Like it helps you create GIFs, it helps you create images and post them on your website. Now if you come from a problem finder mindset, which is absolutely, like, these are two very active mindsets, and there's completely nothing wrong with any of these mindsets. But if you come up with a problem finder mindset, you're going to be the one who will raise issues on basically their GitHub. You're going to be the one who's going to write a mail saying, hey, I found that this is an issue about the product, or this is not working. So you're contributing to the product in a way where you will tell what are the issues, you will tell what are the feedback with the product, right? So this kind of mindset is equally important for any company who's building a product, because that helps them to make the product better. That helps them to make sure that anything that they are building is is up to the mark, and whatever the developers require is being fulfilled. Now let's talk about the other side of the other kind of mindset that developers can come up with, that is the decision makers or the solution finders. So now these are the folks who are actually going to sit and work on the issues that problem finders come up with. Now, to give you an example, a clear example of these two different mentalities is a maintainer and a person who creates an issue. A maintainer is the one who's going to, we are talking about open source here, we are talking about a repository where there is a maintainer who's taking care of the complete project, and then there are people who contribute to these open source project by creating issues, by finding bugs. So the decision maker is the one who will actually be working on the bug that is given after you give them whatever solution that you've come up with, right? So they are the ones who put the final full stop, making sure that this is what will go ahead, this is what the solution should finally look like. So yeah, these are the two mindsets, and it's really important for you as a developer to understand in which mindset you fall in. As it's seen through various research papers, that if you're in your initial career stages, you fit into the problem finders mindset, and as you have more experience with the tech stack and technology, you fit into the decision maker mindset. Given that, there is more variety in terms of what kind of developers that people are currently seeing. Let's talk a little bit about that. So in terms of developer experience, there's a wide range of different sorts of experience that any developer could have, right? So I have noted some sort of experiences here. First of that being a product experience, second being industry experience, third technology, and fourth motivation. Now, before I get talk deeply into about these four things, let's see. Let's understand more about why it is important to understand the different types of developer experiences. Okay, so a developer can be new to development, or he or she can be a seasoned expert, right? In general, there can be developers in your company who are familiar with your products, and similarly on the external side, there can be developers who are way more expert, but they won't be familiar with your product. So it's just two different sets of developers interacting together. So how do you make sure that the product that you're building caters to all these different kinds of developers who come in with different product or development experiences? So basically, to talk about product experience, there are developers who come in with a particular product experience, right? So for example, if I have worked with GitHub, or if I have worked with APIs for a very long time, I come up with an API experience, I come up with a SaaS based experience. So although I might have a senior level experience in SaaS and product, I might not know a lot of things on front end side, I might not know a lot of things on the DevOps side. So my experience would be completely focused on a product. My experience would be completely focused to a major part, but not other things. Now, another kind of developer experience that we can see is industry experience. Now, industry experience caters to a bigger chunk of tech stacks or technologies, where you could be a you could be a backend expert, you could have experience in backend, you could be a DevOps expert, or you could be like front end, basically covering a bigger chunk of tech stacks. Another thing that as I'm talking about, is a technology experience. You could be very good at Angular, you could be very good at React, you could be very good in one set of technology, and that could be your experience set. And finally, the last thing we can see is developers who come in with experience but also with motivation. Like, majorly, to give you an example, is open source developers. Open source developers are the ones who come into picture purely through sheer motivation and community responsibilities. They don't have to do what they do, but they do it because it's part of the community aspect, right? So basically, understanding how can you make sure that how can you target all of these subset of developers. So if what you can think about is, if you want to make sure that you want to target all these developers, your piece of content. So now the content that I'm talking about is the content that caters to your product, or the content that you will be putting out. it has to cater to these different sets of developers, making sure that the level of the level of how hard the content is to understand differs from different people. So to give you an example here, let's say for example, you write a blog or you write an ebook which is going to talk about a niche aspect about storage. Now to make sure that you're catering to these different kind of developers, you can break down your content into different aspects. You can break down your content to make sure that easier parts cater to problem finders, easier parts cater to people who come from product experiences, the tougher parts cater to more people who come from the technology experience, basically to make sure that there is something for everyone to take back. There is something for every sort of developer, every developer who's coming from different kinds of experience. There's something for them to cater. And yeah, that's how I think majorly you will make sure that you take care of the complete psychology of developers, and you're catering to the complete developer audience. And I guess, yeah, that's all I had to talk about developer psychology, and making sure that you know what you are. Finally, to talk about the developers on our side and not from the from the product side, it's very important for us to understand what power we hold currently. You as a developer hold the power to understand if a product will trend or not trend, if a product will work or not work. So it is very important for us to make sure that we actively give feedback, so that good products are being built, and actively be a part of this complete process of building better products. And yeah, that's about it. I would like to say thank you. And more than that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to take that. Yep.
Thank you so much, Pratim. Thank you also for this presentation. I think we have some questions. Questions are ready. What I kindly ask you as a friend, as a favor, since we have Danny Thompson waiting, is it okay for you if we just kick him super fast, and then we take all these questions later?
Absolutely.
Only if that's okay for you.
Yes, it's absolutely fine. I'm actually excited to hear to Danny. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Thank you so much. Let me remove this one. So, okay. So stay there. Don't go away. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Thank you so much for your presentation. Okay. So now is the moment. Now or never. Let me invite here a wide appearance. Danny Thompson. Is the audio working?
It's working.
Perfect. Okay. So Danny, thank you so much for sneaking, literally jumping into this daily.dev event. I think it's the first time for you here. So I don't think Danny Thompson needs a real presentation, but he does a lot of things. He has an emotional story. He's active everywhere. He's one of the few people who is more active than me, which is not that easy. I don't know how he does that. Then I see that you are also losing weight. He's also exercising now, so we can't find really something bad in this person. Amazing, Danny. So yes, so you are here, and we'll have a more fireside chat format. And so the topic today is working in teams. So what does it mean for you to work in teams? And of course, feel free to introduce yourself before we start.
Yeah, I'm Danny Thompson. If you don't know who I am, I run my mouth quite a bit on social media. So if you ever try to catch up with me, you can catch me there. One of my biggest goals is to make kind of complex topics very approachable, but I also try to come up with ways that you can go from A to B in a very distinct, powerful way, right? So the idea being here, how do I get developers to be better developers? How do I get beginners to be more, marketable in the industry as a whole? And a big portion of that does come into this realm of not just writing amazing code, but being a phenomenal team member in that process, right? Because the reality is no company has been built on the back of one single developer. Microsoft isn't, Google isn't, no company is that way, right? It's built upon the culmination of a lot of developers doing a lot of tasks that basically support one another. And so when it comes to being a great team member, being the topic of today, one thing, I even talked about this the other day in a big talk at a Fortune 500 company. And the idea that I said was, it's really cool when you learn something different and new from a blog article or from like a random YouTube video that you saw, and you're making this complex piece of code that you're proud of. The problem with that is when I come behind you and I don't have any clue what that blog article was, what that YouTube video was, I've never seen that material before, and I have no idea how to approach your code. Writing understandable, maintainable code is one of the best things you can do as a developer, because guess what? By doing that, now for the longevity of that life cycle of that code, it's now usable by everybody. What happens if you make this really cool, creative, complex thing and then you quit? What do we do then? The company can't break down because of that. So one big factor, obviously, on being a great team member would be in the realm of writing really great maintainable code. The other one is amazing communication skills. If Francisco and I are working on a team, let's say Francisco is stuck on something, he hasn't vocalized it, how am I supposed to know that we need to progress him or move him or give him resources or kind of maybe pair programming with him a little bit to get past that blocker? Great communication skills isn't underrated. And what's funny is that's actually something you can demonstrate really well in a job interview as well, right? If you think about how to share these items, share these ideas, talk about these points, it's extremely valuable within that setting. And so I think even from those two things, those are two major points actually that can kind of help you become a better team member, but also qualities you could look for in others. That if you see certain developers doing things that you wouldn't necessarily say are great communication standards or great coding standards, these are things that you can bring up in a meeting as well to talk about, hey, can we address ABC and find a better way to do X, Y, Z?
Nice, Danny. Nice, Danny. So I have one question, and in the meanwhile, you can drop some. So, what do you think are like the bad things, like the things that maybe it's a symptom that basically you are doing something wrong in a team? Because working in a team, it's not easy, especially, for example, because a team is not something that is prepared. Then we have 10 people, then we go, and then we come back home. Usually there are people adding later. There are the experts, there are the senior, there are people with family, people who have more time, people very passionate about coding, people who just do this for money, nothing wrong with that. So how can we make a good team, and which are like the mistakes that maybe you saw in your experience?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've made so many mistakes. Like, it's insane how many mistakes I've made. I once broke production for 3 days simply because I forgot a comma in a JavaScript object. It was a nightmare. It was terrible. I thought I was going to lose my job. Truly, truly nightmare fuel, right? And here's the one thing that I've noticed, and not just with me, but almost every developer I talk with. Number one, if you are upfront and vocal about whatever thing that you broke, 99.999% of the time, your entire team is going to come behind you, support you, help you solve this problem, etc. Right? The one time I see almost unanimously people hating you is when you try to cover it up, you try to fix it on your own, you mess up more things, or you don't fix it up in the process, and then someone higher up says, hey, XYZ is broken, and now your boss is like, I have no idea. I didn't know it was broken. You want to avoid those conversations. So by being very upfront about it, it makes things significantly easier. That's number one. Number two, mistakes are going to happen. It's inevitable. Nobody is foolproof. I don't care what kind of developer you are. Now, I will say it's very important to kind of check checks and measures, make sure there are things in security in place to kind of reduce or create a reduction in those mistakes. To give you an idea, one thing that I did at work, we had several projects that didn't have any testing whatsoever. So I literally led the initiative and created the framework that we're now utilizing in production to basically have a lot more unit tests in place to kind of prevent some silly errors. One prime example, one of the projects, the section of code wasn't under unit test at all. Guess what? Literally, no one decided to test if a zip code that didn't exist would break the program. Guess what? That's exactly what happened. A customer in production entered the wrong zip code, broke the whole page. We had to deal with that headache, of course. But think about it. Simple mistakes like that could be avoided by better testing strategies. And what's funny is, as a team, we all came together, we fixed this, we analyzed this, but we also started following it back as well to see what other edge cases could we come up with that would prevent the breakage. So things like that make a big difference. But I'll also say when it comes to breaking things, the grand scheme of breaking comes from either you haven't written good code, you haven't understand the the acceptance criteria or the business ask. Or another way of breaking code is you have, and this actually happened as well, you don't realize by working on one component on one page that it may be utilized in other pages as well, right? So sometimes getting a full picture of that is a big deal, and it kind of makes a significant difference. And so I wouldn't be too upset if you break something. Breakages are going to happen, but what I would say is the way you respond to that is going to dictate how the outcome of that will end up looking.
Nice, Danny, nice. Okay, so now let me play the devil's advocate role. So, do I need to be a good team player to level up my career? Because I can say I can just be better at coding. Why do I need to work in a team?
Yeah, so I think maybe 10 years ago, it didn't necessarily matter if you were a great team player or not, because people were looking for people to just churn out a ton of code, right? Things have changed dramatically, especially in the last 10 years alone. I've even seen in my own company, we had a developer come in, a rock star of a developer, like could code beyond belief. And I remember I didn't get to sit in the hiring meetings, but I got to see the notes. And I remember even our L6 developers like, wow, he can code, but what a terrible attitude. That was the one takeaway he came back with. And what's funny is we have 4 rounds of interviews at our company. Each round, that was a very similar takeaway. Very technically sound, but really bad attitude. Think about that. If you're in the interview, the time where you're supposed to be showcasing like your best side, and your attitude is that bad that everyone that interviewed with you felt the exact same way, they ended up passing on him. What's funny is they knew he could probably create some really phenomenal code, but what's the value of bringing somebody in that could potentially, number one, bring down the entire team's morale? Number two, could potentially not communicate effectively with everybody on the team. Like, for example, my team alone, we are 22 people, right? Just on my team. Can you imagine one person being so bad that 22 people don't want to interact with that individual? Doesn't make sense. And the last thing, think about it. When we're constantly communicating, we operate $1 billion business. We don't have time to see if one person who's decided to be a solo individual is now doing things that are the community objective, right? Because we have $1 billion at stake here. Everything we do affects the bottom line of the business. Why would we want to jeopardize any of that because of somebody who can code great? Coding great is not the only sum of the formula anymore. You need to have some good people skills. And I'm not even saying you need to be like an all-star salesperson or the most extroverted person in the world, but there's some basic things that you need to have, especially when it comes to the role and the idea of communication, or also even certain things like organizing your tasks very well, prioritizing your actions, things like that. Other soft skills that I even mentioned as well is like translating business requirements. If I were to tell you, hey, we really need to fix this portion of the page because we're losing customers on that, the way you translate that action is a big factor as well. Like, are you translating as, oh, I just need to fix the styling, or, oh, I need to fix functionality, I need to fix response times? Understanding that ask as well is a very big factor.
Nice, thank you. And yeah, then yes, as a past as a coach, I also had some very good players with a very bad attitude, and they can really ruin a team. They can ruin a match because even the best ones, they do mistakes, and they are not even used to do mistakes. So even their attitude becomes even worse in that case, and everyone does mistakes. And when this happens, the match is done, is gone. Okay, so. Now, another question for you, Danny. So let's say that I am that person with that bad attitude, and maybe I'm not even a good coder, so let's say I have a bad attitude. But maybe I notice this because every person I interact with, I receive bad feedback from interviews. So maybe at some point, I don't know, I decide, okay, so maybe it's me. So how can I improve my working in a team? Like, do you have some practical things that I can do? Let's say that I finally I'm enlightened. I say, okay, so maybe it's me.
Yeah. So I think a couple things that could be done here. Number one, finding empathy. So understanding, okay, everyone's not going to get it right. So how do you respond to that? So oftentimes I've seen people with kind of quote unquote bad attitudes are people that say, oh, hey, I didn't do this correctly. And they're like, so dumb. Like, let's not go with that. Instead, say, totally understand you didn't get this right. Let's figure out why this didn't work out in the desired way. So that empathetic approach definitely pays dividends. I think one other thing as well, if I'm being completely honest, some things that you can do to kind of help you fix that attitude, go to meetups. Like, I'm a big advocate for meetups, but think about how many developers are around you and just observe how their communication pattern is going. See what you're lacking and what you could possibly emulate, right? One of the best things about code reviews, meetups, is informal code reviews. And I think that's a fantastic way to do that as well. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a meetup, and in that meetup, I've showcased some code and I'm like, tear it apart. Give me some ideas. Those informal code reviews oftentimes give me feedback as well into who this individual is. Should I be interacting with this person? Should I be talking more, et cetera, et cetera? I don't care if you're the world's best coder, but if you can't even talk to me as a human being, we have some problems. And so going to a meetup is a great way to do that as well. Discord. There's so many communities out there right now. I mean, there's a billion communities out there. You can find so many, and you can start seeing speech patterns. You can see what you're lacking. If you start talking to people and they start saying, oh, I don't really like the way that you're coming across, that's a great time to start saying, let me take a step back and figure out where I went wrong here, right? And being open to constructive feedback. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to where they have their idea of like, no, this is the right way no matter what. That's not somebody you can really converse with, connect with, and really get along with. That's that feedback, that communication goes in such a major way. It plays such a big factor. So even, for example, I have a Discord community called the Commit Your Code Discord, very popular Discord. We have over 11,000 developers, everybody from absolute beginners to FANG level devs that donate time and hang out. And there have been times where we've said to somebody, hey, pausing right here, I think you need to really reevaluate how you're having a conversation. Take a step back and then come back into this conversation. That little break sometimes gives people perspective. Sometimes it doesn't. And oftentimes when we see somebody overly doing it over and over again, and they could probably bring down like the momentum of the community, that's even times where I get on a side conversation where it says, hey, this is really, really hurtful for a lot of people. Either I need you to adjust this or you have to find another community. Oftentimes that reality check really gives people a lot of perspective to say, I see where I went wrong here. I see where I was overly critical in a negative way instead of providing constructive criticism.
Nice, Danny. Yes, I don't know how much time you can stay. If you can stay, if you have to go, just tell me. And
I got a little bit of time I can hang out with you.
Nice. Okay. Yes. Okay. So let's try to connect. I kindly ask you to ask something related to the topic of working in teams, but let's try, because everything can be related to this. So choosing startup versus big organization as a fresher. So choosing the sides of the team. So what would you suggest?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors when it comes to this question in particular that I don't think people think about. So there's two things. It's two different lifestyles. That's number one. So when you go into a startup, it's not going to be at a normal pace. Everyone wears every hat. Everyone does every task. You're basically meant to kind of jump around and do everything, right? Some people are very comfortable with that. Some people aren't. The other thing that I'll throw into the conversation as well is startups. It depends, but sometimes they pay in different ways. Like they give you great equity grants. And if the company does become popular, those equity grants pay off dividends, right? Like it definitely is going to pay off in the long. Like imagine working at the startup that people doubted in the beginning called Facebook, and then seeing what that equity grant turned out to for a lot of individuals, right? So startup, that's a really interesting task. Now, here's the thing when it comes to being a fresher or a junior developer or a new developer. Think about this. This is the kind of the strategy that I utilized when I was getting my first job in tech. Who do I think is hiring and creating pathways for sustainable growth for most junior developers? Is it going to be the mom and pop shop that has a total team of 20? Or is it going to be the enterprise level industry company that hires hundreds of junior developers every single year and they have pathways built for sustainable growth? What happens if that startup goes out of business? That experience is going to kind of dry up as well, right? So for me, when it comes to getting your first job in tech, I think you need to start focusing on who's doing the most hiring in the sector. Most startups are not going to hire a ton of junior developers. Maybe they're going to hire 1, 2, 3 handful, but they're focused way more on the senior devs that can actually output a lot of code. Because think about it, when it comes to the startup lifecycle, like they need to get a lot done in a very short period of time, and they need people that can churn out code. They don't necessarily have a ton of time to invest in an individual. And I definitely work with a lot of juniors. I've helped over 700 land the first jobs in tech in like the last 2 years. But I'll tell you this much, most of the junior turn I've seen like have been from startups that had to cut cost or failed startups, things like that. You never know if you're getting like an amazing company or not. And it really depends on a lot of factors. So for me, I personally think big organization is more like secure, especially for your first job. Because think about it, the worst thing that's going to happen is you join a startup and then 3 months they kick you out because they need more senior devs, they don't have enough funding, they need more time, et cetera, et cetera. I'd rather you go for the enterprise level company first, because the other thing too, and I saw a video on this that was a big deal. This video showcased a hiring manager recruiter who helps people get jobs, and they had several resumes, and one of them had some enterprise level companies on that. The name recognition definitely played a big factor in getting a lot of callbacks, because obviously it does matter. But when they saw the difference in callbacks, it was like 14 callbacks for interviews from the big name recognition enterprise level companies versus 6 callbacks from the no-name startups. I think that's a very big factor when it comes to getting future opportunities as well.
Thank you, Danny. You caught me off guard. No, it's. I think that you are on point. I think, and also, of course, it depends because you can also be in the best organization, but it also, I think, depends on the small team that you're working on. Because maybe you heard something super good about I don't know any company. I don't want to say names. And then you go in the very small team, which is bad. So at the end of the day, are always like the real people who sits very close to you, even remotely or physically. That makes the difference in the working team, of course. Nice. So we have one more question, if you can, Danny, by Graham. How can a brand new team member build strong connections with their teammates quickly?
Ugh, you asked me a question from this person. Ugh, the worst. I like Graham. Graham is good people. I'll tell you exactly what I do. So I have a strategy whenever I join a new company or join a new team. And one of the first things that I do, and I actually did this at this latest company as well. And the funny thing with this was, I don't think anybody in the company history has done it. And so everybody was kind of taken off guard when I did this. But this is actually something that I learned at Google, and it was a great lesson. And the first thing I do when I join a company is I immediately set up one-on-ones with every single person on the team, all the way from the managers to the junior devs and interns. And the reason why is, number one, this allows me to kind of talk one-on-one with them. I set up 15 minutes, not a big commitment. And I want to know, number one, what are they working on? Number two, what are, like, for example, maybe some knowledge shares that they could share, some things that they can provide that I may not necessarily know or be familiar with. But the other thing that I'll say is, in those one-on-ones, we're having like a kind of connection, especially in a remote environment, virtual environment. It's hard to make those connections because I'm not working at a desk beside you, right? So by jumping on that call, we talk for 15 minutes, a little connection is developed. And so now later on, when I start approaching you with, hey, I saw that you worked on this ticket, I'm working on something related, can we talk about this real fast? It's so much easier. Regardless of if you're at the higher level or the lower level, it makes like a significant difference. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. Huge difference. And it makes, because we've already talked, the first interaction becomes so much easier when it's business focused. Because think about it. If I just come to you saying, hey, saw you worked on this, I think I need to talk to you about this. People are like, who are you? Like, what are you talking about? What is this about? There's so much rapport not built. So for me, I think that's like a big one. The other thing is, I make sure that when I'm in certain meetings, let's say if it's a 3-person meeting, we do have like a couple minutes of casual conversation to build that rapport before we go into like business focused tasks. The other thing too is, I love respecting people's time. And so anytime I set up a meeting, I'm of the belief that a meeting doesn't have to be the full length of the meeting simply because we blocked off that time. And so anytime I've ever held a meeting and I've got people in there, let's say I block off 30 minutes and I only require 12, I'm turning it off. Why do we need to sit the other 18 wasting time or finding things to fill out? I'd rather respect everybody's time. People love that, and it goes a long way. So for me, I think those are like some big wins that you can do to kind of stand out. The other thing is, I'm a very big believer in this, by the way. I love giving kudos. I don't feel like enough people do this. And I don't do it necessarily publicly unless I know the individual is comfortable with that. But I will, like, for example, shoot them some DMs, or like we have something called sprint retrospectives where you can kind of say, oh, how was the last 2 weeks? I love going in that. I think I'm the only one on the team that does this even now. But I'll go in there and be like, huge shout out to XYZ. They really killed it this week. Huge shout out to John. John's phenomenal. Huge shout out to Sam. Like popping all that. And they remember that. Like it sticks with them. And they know who's writing that, obviously. So it sticks with them. And they're like, oh, Danny needs some help. Yeah, sure. Let me jump on a call. Let me help him out. I know at the very least, he's going to appreciate it. At the very most, maybe he's going to share it. And who knows, maybe I'll get some benefits that way. But I'm also a very big believer on speaking up for the people that don't necessarily speak up. And so when I'm in one-on-ones with my manager, sometimes I'll even share little notes about like, oh, I saw XYZ was working on this task and they really killed it. And my manager will go back and look at it and they'll share it even with them saying, oh, Danny said you worked on this and it was fantastic. They really want to share some love with you. And I think that right there is a phenomenal way to go about things.
Nice. Thank you, Danny. So now I'm inviting back the other two speakers. I don't know if you know both of them. One is Pratim and one is Yotam.
Hello.
So welcome,
Hello.
everyone. Now we are all the four of us. And yes, so if you have a question specifically for Pratim, you can drop this in the chat. Then if you have to go, just tell me. And yes, let's try to grab this one. And maybe I guess we can start with you, Pratim. So let's start with you because we skipped your question parts. So how to grow up to senior role as a mid-level dev, and I would like to link this question with the current topic, which is about working in team. So does working in team can help you to level up and become a senior developer?
Well, I'll be very honest here. I myself, look at myself as a mid-level developer. But to be honest, I don't really understand these tags of mid-levels, intermediate level, and all of these things. So I don't really think if I can comment on how you could grow as a senior level, on a senior level. I think Danny would have a better perspective, or Yotam can have. I have around 3 to 4 years of experience in the industry, and I'm still learning. But all I can say is be open to challenges. Do not put them under any different kind of tags or labels saying that, okay, this is a junior level challenge, this is a senior level thing to do. Be open to anything. Try your best, give your best. And if you can do it, you never know. You've already solved a senior level challenge or a junior level challenge. That's all I can say about this.
Yes, maybe we need the belts in developer, like black belt, white belt. I don't know. We need to define these levels in some ways. So then, if you have,
Just have ranks, like.
Yes, Danny.
Yeah, I actually was in a Twitter space last night and we spoke about an hour and a half on this topic. And what's funny is I try, and we all know I can run my mouth. So I try to hold back sometimes and see where the conversation goes. See, Pratim smiles. She's like, yeah, he can run his mouth. I already know. I see the laugh and she knows. Anyway, one thing that I'll say here in particular is the titles, the problem with senior, mid, etc., there's no international standard when it comes to these titles. And so, for example, you could be a senior developer in one company and go to another and they're like, you know what, you're a mid-level developer here. It doesn't translate all the time. And so one thing that I often say is the title needs to be, quote unquote, bestowed upon you by your manager, the ones in charge. But one thing that I'll say here is I think it's really, really strong for you to vocalize the things that you want, to vocalize the aspiration and titles that you're going for. And so one thing that I often do whenever I go somewhere is I make sure there's a point for me to have frequent one-on-ones with my manager. I have a very strong living document that is updated in real time in those one-on-ones. And so for my manager, I say, we need to come up with a pathway for me to get from L2 to L3, L3 to L4, L4 to L5, right? What things do I need to be doing, et cetera, et cetera. My company, we even have a document that says, if you meet these criteria, you're in a perfect position to be leveled up. And what's funny is that living document becomes your biggest proof of why you deserve that promotion now. Because guess what? If my manager says, hey, I need you to work on A task, B task, C task. When I do that and knock it out, I put little check marks there. And that next one-on-one, it's a reminder and reiteration of, remember you mentioned these 3 tasks? They're complete. Now in 6 months' time, when they scroll through that living document, because I share my screen and we go over this together, boom, they're saying, oh, Danny did knock it out. Danny did do this. And the reason why, and I'm specifying this particularly, think about it. Every single time you have a conversation with your manager is also having a similar conversation with 20 or 30 other individuals. They can't remember every little thing that you did. And what's funny is I actually learned this from gas station days. For those that don't know, I worked in gas stations all my life, right? What I started realizing was there were certain people that were getting paid more and getting promoted more than me, even though I was putting in more work, I was doing more things. And I kept saying, my boss knows I'm putting in 80 hours a week. They know that I'm working 7 days a week. They know I'm doing this. They know I'm doing that. But the ones that were vocal and reminding were the ones that were getting the raise. They were the ones that were getting all these accolades and promotions, and they were asking for it. That's when I said, how many opportunities and how much money have I lost in my life simply because I didn't say, I'm interested. I can do it. How many times have I been passed over for something because I didn't say, I think I have the skill set for this. I said, my closed mouth will never be the reason why I lose an opportunity again. And ever since then, it's never been a problem for me. I oftentimes, matter of fact, my first job in tech, I was promoted 3 times before leaving the company. And when I left the company, I left because honestly, the raise that I got was very minimal. I think we all know the fastest way to a raise in tech, honestly, is switching companies oftentimes. They have certain budgets that they can't exceed. And I got a 35% raise when I switched, but I got those 3 promotions. No one in the company history has ever gotten promoted 3 times as quickly as I did. And what's funny is I got it simply because I said, how do we make this happen? What is the pathway? I knocked it out. Here's the proof that I knocked it out. Let's go ahead and fix that leveling from L1 to L2, L2 to L3, so on and so forth. And that was a very big factor to that.
Nice. Thank you, Dennis. So we are almost at the end of this event. I'm super happy for all your presentations and then, of course. So I would like maybe to have some final thoughts if you don't have any more pertinent questions. So maybe Yotam, would you like to give some final thoughts on this topic, which is working in teams? I really loved your presentation. I think I'll watch it again later.
Well, you better watch it again later. I wonder what else. Were there any other questions that I might add my 50 cents on?
We had many. I really can't remember. This is my level of memory. So maybe how can I get integrated in a new team, for example, if you want to go with that? This is the only one I remember. Yeah.
Can you repeat that? How can one do what?
How can you integrate in an existing team? When you are new, when you are the beginner, when you are the new one?
Well, I think that in many times it's not really up to the new member who just joined. It's always Danny just said it's always good to speak out, be loud, not be rude about it, but be loud and be heard. But eventually, I think every team has its own meta character that is usually designed by the team lead, like in every organization. And if this is a kind of a team that holds in and hugs, metaphorically, new members who I hope metaphorically who are joining the team, then it will always be easier to integrate yourself both as a person and as a developer. But otherwise, I think that doing a great job and trying to understand what everybody else is working on, asking questions just to be heard, not necessarily put on your opinion about anything. Be modest, especially in the beginning, but ask questions and be curious. People will understand that you're into what they are doing. It's okay not to know everything. You don't have to say yes to anything. You don't have to say that you know what to do. It's okay to say I don't know, but I would love to learn. Please show me. I think that this is the way to find yourself into a good mixture. This is a good mixture of finding your spot in a team. I hope this answers the question.
Yes. And to be honest, when there is someone new who tells me that they don't know something, I don't know, I feel good because maybe I can help them. At least I feel that they are honest. So I feel the person there is not trying to pretend to be better than they are. It's like a simple and honest admission, especially at the beginning. So we have this new one by this guy, Graham, and I would like to go with Pratim with this one. So what do you do if you don't gel? I don't know if that was a way of saying, I learned this today, with someone in the team. How do you find that common ground?
Well, if I can relate it to my previous experiences, times when I felt I haven't gelled with my teammate, first of all, you accepted that if it's fine if you're not gelling with that person, you have to accept it. You can't force that kind of a bond. But yeah, you do realize and accept the fact that you're here to work. So whenever it comes to work, there'll be some professional lines that you'll always have to keep. You there isn't any gelling required when it's actual work. But yeah, it's completely fine if you can't gel with someone, as long as even Yotam was mentioning, as long as you're not rude, as long as you're being the basic, following the basic humanity rules and asking for them, if they're okay, they're doing well, helping them out whenever things are not working in a team. But I feel it's not really necessary to gel with the complete team, as long as you're a part of the whole team spirit. That's more important. But being best friends or not being best friends with the whole team is something that's very personal to you, and if that doesn't happen, don't be so hard on yourself. That's what I'll say.
I agree. I would say don't force it and try to be at least professional on a professional level. So maybe I'll make less jokes, but maybe I'll be at least professional. Danny, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I can't deal with people that I can't gel on team. We got to fight to the death if we don't like each other. No, honestly, being completely real about it, you're not there to make friends at the end of the day, right? Like, you're there to perform tasks, produce revenue, solve problems, deliver solutions, right? Like, that's the objective of your role. And so being best buddies and going out for drinks or something like that, that shouldn't be the objective. So one thing that I say is I have definitely worked on teams where there are some people that I absolutely love and some people not so much, if I'm being completely honest. But the thing is, we still need to push something and hit a deadline, get something out. And so that's the focus. So you can save your buddy time and hangout time for after work hours. As long as you're there, just keep it professional, amicable, get things done, and focus on the people that you can have a good relationship. But I would never make it super obvious that, oh, I really dislike this person, I don't want to talk to you. That's uncalled for in a business setting, as far as I'm concerned.
I actually have something to add, which I just remembered, if I can share it. Something that has worked with me when times, in such times, it's a very obvious situation that pops up every other day, and you sometimes you just don't gel. Having a framework set in terms of, so for example, let's take the example that two people are working together on a same project, and unfortunately you are not gelling together, you don't think you have a good rapport. Coming up with a document and setting up goals that are broken down into two parts, like, okay, these are the goals that you have to achieve, and when you achieve these goals, I can kick in my part of job. And that's when you sit and discuss over them. If that's when you can actually have come up with team playing, right? Like, you wait for them, you help them achieve their goals, and bam, the moment they achieve their goals, you're happy, because you know now you're going to kick in, and in the end, when the complete project is done, both of you have put in the equal amount of work, you come up with a great rapport, and I think you've gelled by that time. And if even that doesn't help you, then I think there's something that you need to work on. But yeah, this is
Nice,
For
nice.
that.
Yes, yes. I don't know how it's possible to dot gel with working with some of all of you in this room, but I don't know. It can happen. Maybe, yeah. Yotam, would you like to add something? Then we wrap this up.
Sure. Should I just wrap it up for everybody? Well, I guess that many of the topics that were covered here today were just. This was less of a techie session, right? It was more about it. It was mentioned a few times during my session. This is about the soft skills, and I know that us developer advocates, people in DevRel, people who are regular to stand in front of cameras, we do that because we feel comfortable talking to people, and I know that sometimes maybe getting an advice from people like us is a little bit tricky because we are extroverts. Some people aren't. Some people are it takes them a lot more time when starting to work with new people, when it's not their home habitat, not their natural surroundings, a new place where they need to show up, when they need to sometimes even to rise up above their natural abilities to communicate. And I really don't know how it feels to be in this position, because I don't know, I was raised in a way that I always felt comfortable talking to people. But I do know that when I see when new members are joining the team, or not even my team, I just see them in the office, they're in someone else's team, and I see that they're in their own shell. They're still like afraid to look around, and I know that they're here for a reason. They're here for a reason. They got the job because they can do something that they probably can do better than anyone else who interviewed. So I guess that what I'm trying to say here is, if you got a job, if you're in a new place, trust your abilities and the reason that you got there, and know that you are probably not alone, and know that no one is against you. And eventually, if you just raise your eyes and look at someone else's eyes and smile and say hi, someone will smile back and say hi to you. This is how friendship starts. It's true for workplaces, and it's true for any other place. And don't be so worried about what you can or cannot do. You got the job. Take it slowly. It will grow on you. That's it.
Thank you so much, Yotam. You also gave me the perfect hook, because the next month, the Most Deb will be about developer advocacy. So that's the perfect hook. That will be the topic. We are still organizing that, but let's keep in touch. Subscribe to the channel. So if you like this topic, I honestly like that, since I'm a developer advocate of daily.dev. Of course, try daily.dev. Also, thank you. And yes, so we are about to close. We're already 2 minutes late, but I would like to really thank all the speakers here, Pratim, Yotam, and Danny, of course. Where was that message? And his answer was meh. So yes, so you have to accept feedbacks. Then you have to accept them.
Feedback.
You have to accept them.
I'll work on this. It's an action item.
Nice. Okay. I saw that he has a penny man, so he is noting it down literally. Nice. Thank you so much. Just a small reminder, this is an event that we have been doing for 19 times in a row every month since a couple of years now. And yes, so see you on the next month. It will be at the end of August. I'll also be in India for some days, so we have to organize this before, otherwise it will be very hard. And yes, so please be sure to follow all the speakers. I leave the links in the description, and you will never regret that. Thank you so much for your kind words, replying to everyone. This was not even an easy topic, because when we go on a less technical one, things are a bit grayer, and so it's you really loved your points. That's it. We are done. We are also 4 minutes late. Go away. We are done. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. The broadcast.